I'm Marc.
And I'm Josh.
And this is Alter Ego Comics TV, episode number 75. I feel like we should do something really special, but unfortunately we have nothing special planned for our 75th episode. We'll shoot for episode number 100. It'll be a double-sized spectacular. How's that? Speaking of spectacular or amazing, our first comic up this week is Amazing Spider-Man number 686. Dan Slott continues his reign of awesomeness on Amazing Spider-Man. I mean, the guy obviously has a huge love for the character, has an appreciation for the history of the character, has introduced new characters that people have glommed onto. Really, just Dan Slott, we love you. You've joined the Scott Snyder club of creators that we love very, very much. But it continues the story of Dr. Octopus, who is ready to check out of this world because he is so sick and just falling apart. And he says he's got the cure for the ozone layer. He's going to fix the hole in the ozone layer and fix global warming. And he wants all the nations of the world to pay $2 billion a piece or something. And Spider-Man goes, no, it's Doc Ock. Don't be stupid, people. He's going to kill you. And no one believes him except for Black Widow and Silver Sable and some of the Avengers. So they're off trying to stop Doc Ock and the remains of his Sinister Six. And it's a fun, action-packed thrill ride. It really is. We've got amazing artwork by Stefano Caselli, including an impressive double-page spread near the end that won't look nearly as good digitally. Really. That double-page artistic spreads are meant for the printed page. And this one looks awesome. I honestly have not enjoyed Spider-Man this much since the Roger Stern, Tom DeFalco days of the 1980s, where the Hobgoblin was introduced and we had Silver Sable introduced for the first time. It was just a whole heaping load of fun, and Slott continues that with his run. Again, it is legendary. I kid you not. And he says he's got something huge planned for issue number 700, which is the 50th anniversary of Spider-Man, and from what I've heard, it is going to be a major game changer. He's talked to Marvel Editorial and other creators and made them aware of what's happening so that we get consistency in the Marvel books. So we're going to come off of Avengers vs. X-Men. Shortly after that will be Amazing Spider-Man number 700, and it's going to be awesome. I can't wait.
New number 1 this week from Dark Horse. We've got Resident Alien. Actually, we had a Resident Alien 0 issue a couple weeks ago, but we still have it in stock. And it's very cool. It's basically a quiet story of this alien who's been stranded on Earth and has decided to try and, make the best of it. He's kind of gone to this little out-of-the-woods country area, and he's set up his own little quiet life. And that seems to work out for him until he gets dragged back into reality. There's a murder in the town, and in a town nearby, and they have to call him in as a resident physician because that's part of his backstory that he's fabricated, because the town doctor is the person who was murdered and they need someone to consult on it and cover the duties of doctoring. I assume you get paid in chicken. It's like on Little House on the Prairie or something like that. It's a very small town.
He said duty.
But it's very cool. It is a story about an alien living on our planet, but it's much more of a quiet picture of this small town and a kind of a cool murder mystery, and it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of things going on, and I just enjoyed the heck out of it, and it was good. Resident Alien.
It could be Lima, right? I mean, it's
much smaller than us.
It's Botkins, where you're from.
It might be smaller than Botkins. It's a very small, out of the way, far away town. Very small.
If you're from this town, please let us know.
Please let us know.
Fantastic Four number 606 came out this week, and this is written by Jonathan Hickman, who is the master behind Manhattan Projects, which so many of you are enjoying. Hickman has been on Fantastic Four for about 3 years now, and he's wrapped up his epic storylines. He's had multiple plot threads going and tied everything together nicely with a bow, and he's leaving Fantastic Four soon, but in the meantime we're getting these self-contained one-shot stories, which are a whole lot of fun and worth checking out. This time Ron Garney provides the artwork, and I'm a huge fan of his work. He did a lot of stuff in the 90s and early 2000s, and we really don't see him too much these days, so it was nice to see him back doing it. The story also features a classic Silver Age, Bronze Age Fantastic Four character, which was a lot of fun to see as well. So 606 in last week's, are you all right?
Yeah, no, I had to think what character you were talking about,
all
but
right.
then it became clear.
I don't want to give it away. 606 and last week 605.1 are excellent self-contained stories, as I said. You can pick up those issues and enjoy them without having to read any other stuff by Hickman. However, if you're enjoying Manhattan Projects, and I know many of you are, you should definitely check out Hickman's run in Fantastic Four. It's full of a lot of the same sci-fi elements, parallel worlds, just epic storytelling. And Hickman's Fantastic Four, I think, is going to be mentioned in the same breath as Byrne's Fantastic Four, and the Lee Kirby stuff, even, maybe. Don't hate me if you're a huge fan of the Lee Kirby stuff. But he just took the book in a new direction. That it took a stale family book that very few people were reading and made it one of Marvel's strongest books. Not necessarily strongest sellers, but consistently strong books. So
sales are up. I mean,
they're up over
when he took over. I think we had 2 people reading it, and now it's significantly higher than that.
And now it's 3.
And now it's 3, 3.5. On a good week. But another thing, with the death of Johnny Storm, we saw the start of the Future Foundation, which is a companion book, also by Hickman. And Future Foundation especially should appeal to the Manhattan's Projects crowd, because basically Reed forms his own little school of geniuses, and it's neat to see the different projects they come up with, and it's just very cool. Hickman has a very rare talent for science fiction that's believable and in our world, but at the same time strange and unexpected. It's just wonderful stuff.
Yeah, and we really hope that you follow. The store's been open for 7 years now, and I've seen a lot of people read a character or read a book because it's their favorite character, it's their favorite title. They have every issue of that series, but they weren't so much following creators. And now, as we've seen an increase in sales on creator-owned books, on the indie books, we really hope that you follow these creators. And a lot of them start out in indie land, and then they try to graduate to the big leagues of Marvel and DC. But now we're seeing a lot of guys like Brian K. Vaughan and Ed Brubaker and Jonathan Hickman, and Mark Miller, who have done work for Marvel and DC, and they still have these awesome creator-owned ideas that they don't want to give up, that they don't want to let go of, and they're moving back into Image Comics or self-publishing or what have you. So follow these creators. If you like a writer on a certain Marvel or DC book, there's absolutely no reason not to follow them into creator-owned land, because it's usually more fun.
Another new number 1 this week. IDW starts another Godzilla series. I think it's ongoing, but then I thought the last one was ongoing until it ended.
It's called Godzilla Ongoing, so
that means nothing. But it picks up the first Godzilla series, which is not necessary to understand this one, but the broad strokes of it involved the introduction of the giant monsters. Basically, the whole world for the first time is dealing with Mothra and Anguirus and Godzilla. And so there's a response. People are like, "Well, what the hell? There's giant radioactive monsters." This one takes place after the end of that, so people are already aware of this, and they're kind of rebuilding, reconstructing, and guess what? The monsters come back. But it's actually a lot of fun. I thought it felt more personal than the first one. You've got 2 main characters that you see in the first arc. You've got a retired soldier who's trying to put his life of violence behind him, and you've got a mercenary who's working as a bodyguard for someone. Importance, family members, and it's a lot of fun. Godzilla is difficult to do well in comics because it's part of the spectacle and the smashing.
And in the movies.
And in the movies.
As evidenced
for every good Godzilla movie, there's like 7 bad ones.
Blockbuster Godzilla.
Matthew Broderick didn't fight Godzilla. He fought the monster that was not really Godzilla.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, they're doing a great job of making Godzilla matter and telling the stories that are still faithful to the mythos, but are on a scale that really works and connects with people. And it's great. I'm not a huge fan of monster movies, but these movies really make me care about both the monsters and the people they're affecting. This one's written by Dwayne Straczynski, who we love on Birds of Prey, and you may remember from the later days of the Immortal Iron Fist series, which was also solid. So Godzilla number 1, check it out.
I'm going to stay in the land of Marvel. I had a lot of fun with Marvel this week, and Hulk Smash the Avengers number 4 was at the top of my list. Actually, each issue of this series, which is a self-contained story, each issue showcases an untold story of the Hulk versus the Avengers from a different time period. So we started with issue number 1, and it was the early days of the Avengers, and now issue number 4, it's the Hulk versus the West Coast Avengers, which is right in my wheelhouse because I was a huge West Coast Avengers fan in the 80s. And obviously writer Jim McCann is as well. It's not the Hulk this time around, it's Mr. Fix-It, who was the Gray Hulk, who had suppressed the personalities of Banner and the Hulk, and this new personality evolved as an enforcer for the mob in Las Vegas called Mr. Fix-It. And he had a cool, Tommy gun and a cool gray suit and all this fun stuff. So this takes place, according to the notes in the beginning, shortly after West Coast Avengers number 5. So that's a long time ago. That's probably like 83, 84. And McCann grew up reading these characters. I know this because he's a year younger than I am. He might actually be my age because my parents started me young in school. But he grew up reading these characters and captures their voices perfectly. He obviously has a lot of love for them, which we're seeing with people like Dan Slott as well. These guys that grew up reading comics and are now working in comics and remember these great story arcs and these great stories from the past and are using them as springboards to tell more great stories. Another issue with solid artwork, this time by Agustin Padilla, and another nice splash page in the middle that looks great on the printed page. And as I said, it's another self-contained story, so you don't have to read. We're actually out of issue number 1, but we still have 2, 3, and 4, obviously, which came out this week. You don't need to read the previous issues. You can if you want to. They're fun, and it's the way comics are supposed to be. There are comics that I enjoy that are serialized fiction, where I want to see the next issue, and it's a continuation of a story that goes on and on and on, like the Amazing Spider-Man series, or you've got these great one-shots, like the Fantastic Four one-shots I just mentioned, or recent issues of Fantastic Four, plus Hulk Smash the Avengers. Awesome.
Also awesome, we got Smoke and Mirrors number 3 from IDW. This is Mike Costa's series set in a world where magic is real, and a actual Ledgerman magician from our world is trapped there. And this is the one where we get the backstory. We get to see how he got there, and it's really, really good. It's very poignant. It's interesting to think of a world where what we think of as fantastical is ordinary, but things that are ordinary to us, the idea of sleight of hand or using a force to get someone to pick something, are concepts they've never thought of. They've never even occurred to them. And so it's neat to see a magician with those skills and the way he navigates and manipulates this new world that he's trapped in, and it's just super awesome. It continues their tradition in this series of having an essay in the back. We've got another one by a stage magician about the history of Houdini and escapes and the way it connects and relates to comics, and those have been solid. But also on the independent front, we have an amazing week of restocks. We've got Saga number 1 back in its 4th printing. We've got Thief of Thieves 2, 3, and 4 back in stock.
1, 2. Number 1.
Well, we had 1 already. We got 2, 3, and 4 back in. But yes, we have them all on the shelf. So if you missed out on these first issues, it's a great time to come in and check them out. Saga, Thief of Thieves, Smoke and Mirrors, always super awesome. And we also got some restocks on some of the of AVX titles that have sold out. Although those might be gone already because they've been flying off the shelves.
Yes. Justice League Dark, I have to throw something in from DC. Justice League Dark number 9 this week is my pick from DC. I checked out the first few issues of Justice League Dark and the crossover with iVampire because I love me some iVampire. And while they were good, it just didn't grab me. It didn't float my boat, so to speak. Issue number 9 is the first issue written by new series writer Jeff Lemire, who is writing Animal Man right now, who his creator-owned book Sweet Tooth is doing really well as a Vertigo book. And it's an excellent jumping on point. You don't have to have read anything from Justice League Dark 1 through 8 to be able to pick up number 9 and enjoy it. Features John Constantine, Zatanna, iVampire, Black Orchid, Deadman, and Dr. Mist as this team that this dysfunctional team that investigates supernatural, mystical things that go wrong. It also sets up Steve Trevor, who we've only seen so far in Justice League, as kind of the Nick Fury of the DC universe. That we're seeing some consistency where he goes around and talks to different heroes and recruits them to do different jobs for them. So he comes to Constantine and says, I need your help with this problem that is bigger than the regular Justice League. So we need you and your motley band of men, merry men and women, to do this. And based on what happens in this issue, I think they're setting up something big, whether it's contained only in Justice League Dark or spills out into some of the other DCU books. Justice League Dark number 9 is a book you absolutely want to pick up.
Yeah, and what I liked about it was when they initially announced the lineup for the team, I was very excited to see John Constantine in the DC universe. And while he was part of the first arc, he wasn't a strong part. But Lemire, this whole issue is told mostly from Constantine's point of view, and they definitely have the voice down. He's that fun kind of magician, trickster character that just really works, and especially works as a narrator to keep the team together and to kind of jump around with the story. So Justice League Dark is awesome. I thought it was good before, now it's great.
Yes.
And also great, comic book history of comics. The list we were talking about earlier with like Dan Slott and Jim McCann, the people that grew up reading these Marvel characters and have a huge love for them, I would add to that list Fred Van Lente. who does a lot of smaller projects for Marvel, but he clearly has a great affection, a great knowledge of the history. You'll always see in his stuff weird little people popping up that have not shown up in 30 years. Yes, there's midgets and aliens and things.
Yes.
But no, random characters that were one-offs 20 years ago in an FF issue will pop up in a Van Lente book for humorous effect. And combining his love of comics history is this new book, Comic Book History of Comics, which originally was a series that ran under the title Comic Book Comics, which I think is a much better title.
I agree.
And it's so cool. It starts at the beginning of the comic era. There's a little bit before that, but mostly it starts around the turn of the last century. And it brings you up to today, and it tells you the story of the history of comics and publishing and the way the heroes evolved, the struggles they had to face. It's a truly epic tale. It's a tale worthy of a comic book. It's about comic books. And it's just so cool. I initially went to it because I assumed there were areas where I had gaps in my knowledge. You know, I don't know a great deal about the Golden Age stuff outside of Marvel and DC. But even the eras that thought I was familiar with, he still taught me new things. And it does it with a sense of humor and an aplomb and little parodies and caricatures. And if you like comic books, this is a great read. That's all there's to say. I guess it's a great read if you like comic books.
I would almost say it's an essential read.
Yeah.
I mean, because most of us don't know, as Josh said, everything there is to know about comics, not even me. So to be able to pick this up, and it's a comic book about comic books. This isn't a prose book. This is comics about the history of comics. So you have illustrations of Stan Lee and other people. And
Jack Kirby, Walt Disney.
Everything from the birth of the comic book industry through the tumultuous 90s to present day. And it's a great softcover book. Again, essential reading if you're a comic book fan.
Absolutely.
That is our stack of stuff for this week. We did get some questions this time, or with the last episode. We'll try and get to those next time, but still, please keep the questions and comments coming. We appreciate them. And as always, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.